Throw-ins, corners, yellow cards. Previously very boring. Now almost too exciting. Thanks to same-game multi-bets from Paddy Power. Same-game multis allow you to combine multiple selections into one game. Easy. Available on all UK and top European leagues. T's and C's apply.
Well, hello and welcome along to the Racing Post Football Postcast. I'm Dave Clark from the Racing Post, joined by James Milton, Dan Childs and our friend Adrian Croak from the sponsors Paddy Power. James, how are you? How's your form?
Yeah, very good, thanks Dave. Good to be here.
And Dan?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Happy with Spurs' victory, obviously, on Monday night.
And Adrian, looking forward to, a very, very busy weekend of football.
Yeah, we are indeed. Glad to have the Premier League back.
If I can manage to stay awake, James, should we have a bit of Mourinho chat? I'm a bit bored of it all now. Late press conferences and counting how many Premier League titles he's won. But
yeah.
Is his number up?
I mean, you never know with him, really, do you? It is fairly tiresome, and you just think, can you imagine what he'd have been saying if Arsene Wenger had been behaving like this and harking on about former glories? It's all about this season, isn't it? And so for him to be banging on about how many titles he's won in the past is a load of rubbish. And I mean, I did enjoy United getting beaten by Tottenham because he couldn't use the excuse of not being backed in the transfer window because obviously Poch didn't spend a penny. So I just think with Mourinho, you just look at the squad there. It's clearly not he's not getting a tune out of it, but you just think it's your job to kind of coach these players, and he's brought in kind of £60 million of centre half in Bai and Lindelof. You just think, if you're not happy with them, just try and make them better players. But maybe that's me being old-fashioned anyway.
Well, and Dan, now, Jamie Redknapp doesn't say many interesting things, but he did say one thing that I agreed with, in that Mourinho's almost damaging the brand of Manchester United. This dynamic attacking football was just not there.
I thought, actually, unlike previous Man United performances under Mourinho, the attacking performance was there actually against Spurs. I mean, for the first 45 minutes, they played with a lot of intensity, had a lot of drive about the performance, created chances, and I quite like the way they played actually. I think where he went wrong, he made the right changes in midfield, and they were dominating the midfield, but he made changes he didn't have to make at the back. I know defensively they were a bit of a shambles against Brighton, but they didn't have much protection at Brighton. He got the protection in, got Matic in, who was available again. And I think he could have stuck with those defenders instead of bringing Herrera in, which really I thought that precipitated the defeat. I mean, they went one down, and then the second goal was completely down to a midfielder who he's brought in to play in a back three. And
has he got any excuses, James? I mean, he's spent a fortune as well.
No, I don't think he does have many excuses really. I mean, he's had time, he's had money. If it was any other manager, if it was David Moyes getting his team playing like that and with the results like that, then I think he'd be in trouble. But you don't really see it turning around because Manchester City and Liverpool are playing such attractive football, such efficient, effective football. The standard is very, very high at the top.
That's not doing him any favours either, is it?
No, absolutely.
Man City and Liverpool are.
Yeah, exactly.
Playing.
Yeah.
Well, is he going to be the first to go? Adrian Croak on the line from Paddy Power. I'm assuming that he's the jolly.
He is indeed. He's 6-4 here at the moment, with Mark Hughes coming a second at 5-1. Benitez is 7, Warnock is 9, and Claude Puel is 12.
And have the punters been getting stuck in, or are they treading carefully?
No, punters have been getting stuck in. All right. I think it could just be a lot of Liverpool and City fans though trying to just make sure they're profiting off a really good day for him.
What price would he have been at the start of the season, Adrian?
Start of the season, he was actually favoured ourselves as well. He was 6-1 at the start of the season. It was a pick in between himself and Mark Hughes, but Hughes is kind of shortened in a little bit as well. Mourinho as well. It's Pellegrini has drifted out. Puel has drifted out as well.
He's just been grumbling on for ages. Just bored of it, Dan.
Yeah, and I actually think he's too short, really, Mourinho, in that market. I think the chairmen of clubs that are in danger of relegation tend to panic more than ones of clubs that are at the top end. I mean, United's are not out of the top four reckoning just based on a couple of bad results. They're still got opportunities to turn it around, and I think I'd be more worried about his short-term future if he'd gone into that post-match interview and been down in the dumps and almost like, you think back to the end of the time at Chelsea when they lost at Leicester. He looked a beaten man, didn't he? One thing you would have to say in that post-match interview, he wasn't a beaten man. He was very, very strong in the defence of his team's performance and his own methods. I mean, you can disagree with it, but he didn't look a beaten man. He was up for the fight.
So is there anyone that you would back instead of him?
Well, this is the other side of the coin, that replacing, for a top club to replace a manager mid-season is very, very difficult as well. I mean, you've got Zinedine Zidane's head in the market there because he's available, basically, and then you can say, yeah, he's fantastic. He's won, 3 European Cups, but also his team finished, miles behind Barcelona in the La Liga title race last season, finished third in La Liga. So I think there's a lot of questions, over Zidane coming in and doing any better a job than Mourinho anyway. So if you haven't got the ideal replacement to replace him, then it gives him more of a time and more of a chance to carry on.
Lots of questions indeed. We've had a question actually from Theo S. He says regarding the Premier League outright, he noticed Chelsea are 15.5 on Betfair for outright honours. He says, are people underestimating Chelsea's new manager, James?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way they've started under the new manager, you just felt that with him coming in with pretty late in the summer, kind of being officially confirmed, you felt that they were in danger of making a slow start. But yeah, they've been excellent, and the players really look to have kind of be on board with his methods. Obviously, bringing in Jorginho from Napoli has helped, and I mean the key really is holding on to Eden Hazard, and when he's on his game. And
they're not out the woods yet.
Well, not quite. We're counting down
window
counting down the minutes. Yeah. So if he's there and he's happy, as we've seen, Chelsea are a terrific side. If he's not happy, then it's very difficult. I think the issue, particularly, we mentioned the exchanges, but also for kind of each way punters, you've just got the two places to play with, and as I've said, City and Liverpool have also started just as impressively.
Go on then, Adrian, give us a quick rundown of the all the way down to Chelsea, I suppose.
So currently we have City at 4-6, Liverpool are 12-5, Chelsea are 10-1, Spurs are 12-1, and United are 50s.
Chelsea shorter than I thought they were going to be, Dan.
Yeah, I think it's a bit hard too early to judge Chelsea at the moment. You kind of 3 games in, they've had one big match, and that was the game where they did look, very, very open defensively. I mean, Arsenal could have had 5 goals by half time in that game. So that would be the concern I would have. He's been brought in as a manager to make them more attacking. He has made them more attacking, but also there's the first big game they've had, there's been a lot more openness about them defensively than there was last season. So I just think until they've played any more big teams, let's see how they go in those before we see if they're title contenders or not. Any
moves in the outright book, Adrian, since the start of the season?
Yeah, it's Liverpool have really kind of crushed in there. They would have opened about 5-1 in start of August, kind of end of July. They're into 12-5 now. Just obviously that's kind of related to Man City dropping points last weekend, but also the prices Liverpool have been going off are pretty reminiscent of City prices last year. So it does seem a 2-horse race at the moment.
And your stance as a layer that's not changed since the start of the season, no?
As a layer of Liverpool?
Well, just the outright book, you sort of still want to be with the top 2. You can't see anyone else troubling them. Yeah,
we still want to be with the top 2. We do rate Chelsea a bit higher than Spurs, but we think there's enough of a gap there between the rest of them that we expect that kind of price on Chelsea in the double figures to be pretty justifiable. I mean, Sarri hasn't won anything before, so he bottled it a bit last year, and not really trusting him to do it again this year with a new squad.
Okay, marvellous. Right, we've got loads of weekend action to get stuck into. We'll head off for a quick break, and then we'll tackle those games.
Throw-ins, corners, yellow cards. Previously very boring. Now almost too exciting. Thanks to same-game multi-bets from Paddy Power. Same-game multis allow you to combine multiple selections into one game. Easy. Available on all UK and top European leagues. T's and C's apply.
Welcome back to the Racing Post weekly football postcast. We're going to tackle Saturday's games. We've got Adrian Croak on the line from Paddy Power, and at 12:30 we've got Leicester at home to Liverpool. Adrian, and give us a show for that game, and of course your view.
So Leicester 6-1 at home, the draw is 7-2, and Liverpool are 2-5. I reckon Liverpool are probably a little short here, but it's largely to do with the Vardy news. I don't think there's a huge gap really between Iheanacho and Vardy, so 2-5 might be a bit short here, but it's justifiable. Leicester kind of were ripped apart at home by Wolves. They play a bit of a high line. They're liable to the counter. If I was looking for a bet here, I'd be thinking Liverpool half-time, full-time. I think they could catch them early and could get a few past them, really.
Okay, James Milton in the studio here from the Racing Post. James, got any plucked out anything for this one?
Yeah,
Chris?
I think there's got to be goals in this one, really. It was 3-2 to Liverpool last season in this fixture. And Leicester, as Adrian mentioned, I mean, they were very lucky to keep a clean sheet against Wolves. Lost 2-1 at Manchester United and won 2-1 at Southampton. So I think they've kind of 5-6, both teams to score, even without Vardy for Leicester. I think there's a touch of value there. I mean, Liverpool in the match betting, you know, like with their trip to Palace, they're going off very, very short. I couldn't really be chunking on them at kind of 2-5 or whatever. But I mean, you know, you look online and they are being backed at those sort of prices. So you know, they're obviously rated very, very highly. One stat I saw, Leicester last season in their 12 games against the top 6, 9 of those were both teams to score. So they can certainly trouble Liverpool's defence. But yeah, you'd think Liverpool would have plenty of firepower to win the game.
How are we rating Leicester so far, Dan?
More impressed with their results and their performances. Obviously got this, 6 points on the board. Lost narrowly at Man United in the first game, but the Wolves game, really Wolves, I think, looking at the highlights of that game, looked the better side. Despite losing, Southampton, Southampton seemed to be on top. Leicester came back into it and nicked it, towards the end. So I've not been that enamoured by Leicester's performances. My first glance at the prices, you kind of think that's too short, Liverpool. That's my gut reaction. But and I think they are getting too short, as James has mentioned, for a lot of these away games. I thought they were too short going off at Palace. But then you look at the nuts and bolts of the match, and with Vardy being out, I just think it's such a massive thing there. And I mean, he scored. I looked at the recent history of his fixture. He scored 7 of Leicester's last 9 goals against Liverpool. So that's a huge player to take out your side. Mahrez going as well. You're thinking, I'm not actually that keen on Iheanacho. I don't think he's anywhere near Vardy's impact up top. And with Liverpool, 3 clean sheets. Obviously much better at the back since Virgil van Dijk came in January. Alisson coming in goal has strengthened them even more at the back. I just can't see them conceding. So I just think a comfortable Liverpool win. 2-0 Liverpool is 6-1. I don't think that's a bad price.
Are they still that side, Liverpool, that occasionally get chinned at a massively short price and bust the coupon?
I think they still could be later in the season. There's a lot been said at the moment because they've got the 3 clean sheets. The 3 teams they played against, Palace actually caused them problems. We were talking, Van Dijk had a decent game, but Palace did with their pace and their counter-attack, and they did look a threat. So I would say further, if you get the right team against them, when they're going off these sorts of prices away, it could be a bet to oppose them, but not this time.
Okay, excellent stuff. Right, let's move on then to the 3 o'clock kickoffs, and I'll start with you, Adrian, for each of these because we'll need a show from you and a quick line on the game yourself. We'll start with Brighton at home to Fulham, please.
So Brighton are 11-10. The draw here is 23-10, and Fulham are also 23-10. And just for it, I'd reckon Brighton is probably the best bet here. I mean, Fulham were kind of heavily fancied in the outrights pre-season, but what we've seen kind of on match prices for the first few days is Brighton are really heavily fancied. They seem to have bought quite well, so I think Brighton at home, they'll know it's 3 points they want to pick up, they need to pick up. I think 11-10 is a fair price for them.
Agree with that, James?
I mean, Brighton heavily dependent on their home form. I think last season they picked up 11 points away from home out of 40 or something like that. I'd actually be siding with Fulham, draw no bet here, purely on the basis that they've shown that they are capable of scoring goals at this level, and with Mitrovic up top is a physical handful, and I think they can unsettle Brighton. I think it'll be a tight game, but maybe Fulham draw no bet at kind of around 11-8.
Yeah, quite like the look of Schürrle as well. Danny looks very dangerous so far.
Schürrle, Mitrovic. There's lots to like about Seri's goal as well. That he scored against Burnley. There's so much in this Fulham team going forward, and I just thought that they needed a win to back up the good performances. They had a decent performance at Spurs and lost. Didn't play that badly at Palace in the first match and lost, and got the win they thoroughly deserved against Burnley. So I think they could kick on now. Brighton, hard team to judge because they play 2 very, very big teams at the moment and did well against both. Got lost narrowly at Liverpool, beat Man United. Before that, Watford didn't have a shot on target. So how do you judge them? I think Fulham have actually got more than Brighton offensively, and that's I agree with James. I think Fulham draw no bet is a decent bet.
Lovely stuff. Right, let's move on to Chelsea hosting Bournemouth then, please, Adrian.
So Chelsea are 1-4 here. The draw is 92, and Bournemouth are 9-1. I'd be fancying Chelsea here. I think Bournemouth could actually be in danger this year. They haven't really improved the squad. I know they still have Eddie Howe there, but they're kind of relying a lot on their manager. Chelsea, we've seen them go forward. I think Chelsea on the handicap here is probably what you're looking at here. You get a -2 with 21 at 10.
Did Bournemouth give Chelsea a pasting in this fixture last year? Was it
3-0? Yeah.
What do you think, James? Same again?
Same again, but possibly the other way around.
Right.
I'm with Adrian on this. I was looking at Chelsea -1 on the handicap, a bit more cautious, 8-11. But I think Bournemouth have results-wise, they've made a solid start, but they've had a pretty soft set of fixtures. And this is a real step up for the way Chelsea have started.
What about yourself, Dan?
Yeah, I think a comfortable Chelsea win. I mean, 7 points from 9. It's a great return at the moment from Bournemouth. And they have had. I mean, the win at West Ham was coming from behind was a decent win, but I still think looking at them, there's a vulnerability about them at the back, and you could see that hanging over from last season. You can see that in the Everton game when they've actually gone behind against 10 men. I mean, they did their usual and scrapped their way back and got a point out of it. But this is, as James has said, is a step up. Chelsea, as I've mentioned earlier, looking great going forward. I think they'll be ahead by the break. So Chelsea, half-time, full-time for me.
Just quickly, what kind of system is he using, Sarri?
Sarri, well, he's made the big change he's made is Kante further forward and Jorginho in front of the back four. I think that makes some... I think it's not actually that wise a change, because Kante, when he's in the forward positions, I don't think at the moment he's got the composure to pick the right pass or make the right finish, and they're missing his athleticism big time in front of the back four, which with Luiz in there, I always think is a little bit vulnerable. So I'm not sure about that change, but I do think the players seem to be enjoying playing for him in general and are playing more positively than they were at the end of the Conte reign. So I think that there's a good vibe about the club, and I think they'll win this game comfortably.
Has he been going off shorter prices any time? First goal scorer, Kante as well, Adrian?
Kante, he has shortened up a bit here now, but there's still not much of a belief in him. I know he scored the first week, but he's not much of an attacking forward or an attacking player. He's still here 4-1 any time at the moment. Jorginho is 4-1 as well, so it's pretty much not much of a gap between either player.
Marvellous. Right, let's move on to Palace at home to Southampton then, Adrian, please.
So Palace here are 10-11, the draw is 23-10, and Southampton are 3-1. I think everyone's been really impressed by Palace this year. Holding on to Zaha was obviously massive for him. He's now playing kind of more attacking, so if you're looking for a bet here, you might be looking towards Zaha to score first or any time. But personally, I always like Luka Milivojevic for Palace. Takes pens, has a lot of the free kicks. He'll be getting forward here. I expect Palace to probably do a number on Southampton here, so I'd look at him for maybe 70-2 at first goal scorer.
That pronunciation was good enough for me. What do we think, James?
I'm all over Wilfried Zaha, first scorer in this one, as Adrian's mentioned. He just looks to be a lot more robust these days. He took an absolute kicking against Watford, still managed to score a late consolation for Palace. That made it 7 goals in his last 9 Premier League appearances, kind of back end of last season and start of this season. I'm pretty underwhelmed by Southampton, as I was the whole of last season, actually probably for about the last 5 years. So I'm not very excited about their prospects. And Palace do need a win, and I think they should get one with Wilf starring. Dan, is it harsh to name Palace already as a one-man team this season?
Probably. I mean, they've got other good players, and particularly you're looking at the back there. Sacco is a real key player for them defensively. They're quite hard to beat, but offensively, I mean, he is the main man, and you could see that. Yeah, and you could see Watford against him that the Capoue challenge, and they were trying to, they knew that if you try and wind Zaha up or take him out of the game, then if you keep him quiet, and they kept him quite quiet for most of the game, and he's still done his bit of brilliance towards the end. So, yeah, for those reasons, I fancy Palace here. Just keep it simple. Back Palace. Southampton, have they really improved under Mark Hughes? I'm not so sure. I mean, they picked a couple of results up at the end of last season when they really needed them, but at the start of this season, 1 point from 9, winnable games as well. Really, the Everton away was the toughest, I suppose. Burnley at home, we've seen how they played. They struggled to a 0-0 there. Took the lead against Leicester without Vardy and still lost the game as well. I'm not so convinced by them. I think they're relegation candidates, and I think Palace will beat them comfortably.
Good stuff. A lot of love for Zaha in the studio as well. I think he's a great player. What price is he to open the scoring in that one, Adrian?
Zaha was 7-2 to open the scoring there.
Might have a few quid on that. Right, let's move on to Everton Huddersfield then, please.
So Everton here are 1-2 at home. The draw is 3-1, and Huddersfield are 6-1. Everton, I actually quite like the look of Everton going forward this year. I'm not a big Marco Silva fan, but I do think they have a decent attacking lineup. They will be missing Richarlison this week, so I was thinking maybe going somewhere towards the goal scorer markets. Theo Walcott has always actually, when he starts, had a pretty decent goal scoring record, so you can get him here first at 5-1.
Is he playing up top or is he sort of playing off the wing, Walcott?
He's playing just off the wing. It's Tosson does be playing up top.
Go on, Dan. What do we like here?
I think the Richarlison absence, because of the way that they're playing, is quite a blow for them. Obviously, he's suspended for this match. They've been playing with Walcott on the right, Richarlison off the left, Sigurdsson in behind Tosun, and I just think for a game when you really need to stretch it, because Huddersfield are probably going to go there and be quite tight, you could do with having the two wide players really stretching Huddersfield. After he went off at Bournemouth, they did lose quite a bit offensively. I mean, Walcott did his bit, got a great goal. But there was still that vulnerability that you kind of, in Marco Silva teams, they score a lot of goals and they also do concede a few as well. And giving that 2-goal lead up at Bournemouth was a worry for me. So I'm going to go a bit against the tide here and just say a draw, I think, is a bit of value. Huddersfield, everyone's writing them off. The 2 games they've played, okay, you're probably expecting them to get thumped by Chelsea and by Manchester City. The Cardiff game, okay, you're thinking they need to win this, but they played with 10 men for a big chunk of that game, and they were the better team 11v11. So I think they're going to struggle, but to completely write them off, I think it's a bit early. I think they've got a chance of being competitive here, and I'll take the draw.
Interesting. Dan swimming against the tide a little bit there. £250 million Everton spent last 2 seasons. James, they ready to step up?
Well, I mean, I think you can pretty much write off the money they spent the summer before this one. But I do think they'll get the job done here, even without Richarlison. I like the Everton double result, actually. I just think they've made fast starts in most of their games. Scored the first goal all three times, twice in the first 20 minutes they've been ahead, and then made life difficult for themselves with sendings off and whatever. I just think if they make another fast start, Huddersfield just lack the attacking threat to get back in the game. So yeah, I'm going for Everton to do the business.
Good stuff. Right, let's move on then, Adrian, to the mighty West Ham at home to Wolverhampton Wanderers.
So West Ham are 6-4 here. The draw are 9-4, and Wolves are 7-4. Watching Wolves last weekend, I think everybody was really impressed by them. They do not look like a team that's just come up from the Championship, whereas West Ham look like a team that really want to go down there. I'm backing Wolves here.
Okay, won't be hearing from Adrian anymore on this podcast. What about yourself, James?
I'll be a bit kinder to West Ham and go for over 2.5 goals. I think both teams stronger going forward than in defence. The early signs. The West Ham have been 11 goals in their first 3 games. Obviously, shipped 4 at Liverpool, 3 at Arsenal. Lost 3-1 at Arsenal. But West Ham have plenty of chances, and they've recruited well, I think, in attacking positions. It's just going to take a bit of time to get the balance right. But yeah, I'm quite excited about this game, actually. I think full of goals, over 2.5.
Do you know what I'm a little bit concerned about, Dan, as a West Ham fan? Pellegrini, great players at Man City, gung-ho, and he's not quite got the same players that he had at Man City, but it feels like he's still going a bit gung-ho, and this is the kind of game in which West Ham might come undone, maybe on the counter.
Yeah, I think you're right, he hasn't got the same players he had at Man City, but I would also say that West Ham have got better players now than they've had for a couple of seasons, because of the money they've spent. At the start of the season, I would have had West Ham and Wolves in very similar positions by the end of the season, both because of sort of middle of the table, maybe even trying to push to get into the top 8. I'm not going to change my mind on that. I know West Ham have had a bad start, but I don't think they're playing as bad as the results suggest. The game at Arsenal at 1-1, you're thinking this could go either way here. I mean, that could be a real, that could give them a massive boost there. I mean, they've gone to, the Wimbledon game, you just needed a win in any circumstance. Wimbledon gone out 10 men, they got the win, so they're up and running, a little bit of confidence in that match. And I just think, because I see these teams as very, very similar standing, I know Wolves play well against Man City. I also think that in some cases their ambition can be their undoing in other games as well. They had a lot of the game against Leicester, still lost the game 2-0 away, and this is a similar type of game, I think. And I think West Ham might just take care of the finer details, and with home advantage, I think they're a little bit of value.
Just quickly, James, where do you think Wolves will finish?
10th.
Dan?
Yeah, I had 10th in my head as well. Yeah, so I'm not copying. That's my view.
And Adrian?
As well, yeah.
10th. Oh wow, that's
Can we back
get a price on that? That's very comprehensive. Right, then let's move on to the late game then. Manchester City at home to Newcastle.
So City here are 1-10. The draw is 9-1, and Newcastle are 22-1.
1-10. That's very, very, very short. But Man City, I suppose, James.
Yeah, was it the old saying, if you've got the 10, you probably don't need the 1. So I don't know how many singles Paddy Power will be taking on Man City to win at that price. But Newcastle is an interesting one because you look at the way they've started it, but it's been kind of fine margins, hasn't it? I mean, the opening game against Tottenham, they really gave it a good go late on. Could easily have equalised there, and then missed penalty at Cardiff. That was 0-0. And then they concede a late own goal to lose at home to Chelsea. So, there's obviously massive pressure and lots of stories coming out about unrest and disputes in the dressing room. But actually on the pitch, they've not been outclassed at all in these 3 games. So with that in mind, I'm going for a Man City winning under 3.5 goals. You can't really oppose City in these kind of games because they have just got so much class on the pitch. But yeah, I think Newcastle under Rafa Benitez, he got slated for the approach he took against Chelsea. I don't imagine he's going to come out playing Kevin Keegan football after that. I think he'll do exactly the same thing, a bit of damage limitation, and I think they can keep it tight-ish for a bit. I think last season it was 1-0 after an hour to City. City only won 1-0 at St James's, so Newcastle know they can frustrate City for a bit.
Dan, where's the angle for this one?
The angle is I just cannot see where Newcastle are going to score a goal from here. So you just look at I know they did get a goal against Chelsea when they finally decided to attack when Chelsea got the goal. They had a little bit of a flurry and got the goal at home, but I can't see them having many chances here. I look at them up front, and Rondon got his goal in the week, but I don't rate him as one of the better Premier League strikers. I mean, Muto's come in, the Japanese striker. He wasn't actually first choice in the Japan side at the World Cup, so you'd have to wonder about his quality as well. I just think that there's nothing there really for Man City to really worry about. I think they'll park the bus, Newcastle. Matter of time really before Man City break them down. Even without De Bruyne, they're still creating chances and scoring goals. Could have had more than the one at Wolves. I think they'll get 2 or 3 here. Man City 3-0, I think, does it for me at 11-2.
Marvellous. Adrian, before I get your view on that, would you get many punters steaming in at 10 on?
No, at 10 on, it's really only something that you're going to get thrown into the weekend coupons, kind of with a few other shorties, the Real Madrids and Barcelona time of bets. You're not going to see too much at 1-10. It's just not worth the risk, really.
And where's your angle here? You got a bet for us in this one?
Yeah, I think the angle here is everyone knows that this is going to play. Newcastle are going to try and hold them out for as long as possible. So assuming they're able to do that, I think the draw at half-time, Man City full-time at 16-5, maybe worth a punt.
Great stuff. Right, we've got a couple of games on Sunday to look forward to, but we'll head for a quick break first.
Throw-ins, corners, yellow cards. Previously very boring. Now almost too exciting. Thanks to same-game multi-bets from Paddy Power. Same-game multis allow you to combine multiple selections into one game. Easy. Available on all UK and top European leagues. T's and C's apply.
Well, this is the Racing Post weekly football postcast, and we're going to look at Sunday's games now. First up at 1:30, Cardiff are at home to Arsenal. We've got Adrian Croak on the line from our friends at Paddy Power, and give us a show and your view on this one as well, please, Adrian.
So Cardiff here 5-1, the draw is 3-1, and Arsenal are currently sitting at 1-2. I think Arsenal are pretty. I don't trust Arsenal. I don't think they'll make the top 4. I think they've been poor, but I still think Cardiff are such a level below the rest of the teams in this league. 1-2 away to them is actually a decent price. I'll be looking more towards the goal scorer markets again. Victorian's actually been pretty much up there in terms of shots taken by the Arsenal team this year. He's getting his game out of Emery, seems to trust him. We're expecting Ozil to be out again, so Victorian at 5-1 first or 17-10 anytime, maybe the bet.
Okay, I'll get the views of the lads in the studio here, but we'll try and grab the Arsenal top 4 yes-no betting for us as well, Adrian, because that's an interesting one. James Milton from the Racing Post joins me here. James, as an Arsenal fan, how do you feel about going into this one?
I think if Arsene Wenger was in charge, I'd be feeling nervous, and in the early days of the Emery, I'm feeling equally nervous. It just looks like one of those horrible away trips that Arsenal aren't going to make easy for themselves. So I'm swerving the match market as well, and looking at a couple of goal scorers actually. I think Aaron Ramsey looked very lively, kind of almost in a kind of number 10 role against West Ham, playing against his boyhood club, of course. Gets into dangerous positions. He's intelligent runs. He's a decent finisher. So he'd be one for Arsenal. And looking at the other end, I mean, Cardiff's goal scoring options are limited, I think. But if they can pump a few set pieces into the box, then Sean Morrison could be the man. He had a decent chance in their first game against Bournemouth. Scored 6 in his last 16 games last season, and he is a threat from set pieces. And Arsenal, as we've seen so far this season, still very shaky at the back. So those are 2 goal scorers. It's a tricky one to call. I don't think Arsenal will just about get the job done, but probably be a few nervy moments along the way.
Will that be Cardiff's approach, as James mentioned? They're pumping it into the box.
Definitely will be. Yeah, that's I think that's their best way of trying to get something out of the game. I mean, James mentioned Morrison, Sol Bamber as well, and the other centre back is good in there and all, and is a threat as well. So, but equally, I would say Socrates looks like quite a robust centre back that Arsenal have got in. So I mean, that might help them cope with that. And there is a big class gap, between the teams. Let's be honest here. I mean, Cardiff, are probably the poorest in terms of technical ability in the league. I would say I'll put Huddersfield quite a bit above them. I just think they're going to have to make a lot out of making themselves hard to play against at the Cardiff City Stadium. They've done that a little bit so far. Got the 0-0 against Newcastle. They're going to be scrapping for everything there. I think Arsenal will probably get the job done, but I don't see many goals in the game. So I'd swerve the 1-2 and say under 2.5 goals at odds against looks a bet to me.
And top 4 looks a long shot for Arsenal this year, Dan?
Yeah, at the moment, you'd say that they've got a good chance to finish above Manchester United. We're early in the season, aren't we, as things stand? Chelsea, did they look a lot worse than Chelsea when they went to Stamford Bridge? I'm not so sure, So I wouldn't rule them out completely. Spurs squad, how deep is it? There's question marks over that. So I'd say unlikely, but I wouldn't completely rule them out.
James?
Yeah, I mean, there's an enormous scope for improvement there, particularly at the back. But also, already you're seeing Emery's, there's issues with Ozil. Lacazette's not in the starting lineup, so you've got a couple of really big players who
would he
aren't
be,
featuring.
In your opinion, if he was in charge, Lacazette, would he be starting?
It's just very difficult to get him and Aubameyang into the same side, I think, really, without completely unbalancing it. That's what happens when you sign one star striker in August and then sign another one in January. So I don't know. So I'm sounding very, very gloomy already. We're only 3 games in. There's scope for improvement.
Should James be gloomy, Adrian? Arsenal top 4. Have you got some bet in there for us?
Yeah, so they're currently 5-2 to make the top 4 and 2-7 to finish outside of it.
2-7. Right. Okay. What about yourself? Would you be playing either of those prices?
I think realistically, City and Liverpool have 2 of these spots already tied up. I reckon Spurs, that result on Monday night has really damaged anyone else kind of breaking into it. Chelsea are the only team you might want to look at maybe popping up. I think Arsenal should finish ahead of United, but I think there's too much issues with the squad. New coach, he probably doesn't have the players there he wants. I think it's probably a season too soon for Emery to really start pushing towards that.
Okay, talking of Tottenham, Arsenal's fierce rivals, of course. They travel to Watford 4 o'clock on Sunday, and I'll have to come to you first, Dan, because you're almost split in 2 camps here for this one.
Yeah, I go to watch. I mean, I'm from Watford. I've got a season ticket there. I go, so I'm seeing them a lot. But I've been a Spurs supporter all my life, so I'm pulled a little bit both ways. I want Spurs to win, but I'm not sure they will win. Actually, I think this is a tough game. A lot of people are looking at Watford and saying, "Oh, they've had 3." Softish games, but they have won them all and they've played pretty well in winning them as well. So there are reasons behind that as well. The new manager, he's not actually that new for a start. He came in last season and Watford have stuck with him. And given a pre-season, it's benefiting the club. He's going with 2 up front, which Watford haven't done for a while. Deeney and Gray. Deeney looks fitter than he has done for a long time. Lost a stone in weight apparently. Andre Gray all of a sudden is playing with a bit of confidence as well, and the 2 of them are a threat. And you bring Pereira into it as well, who's looking sharp,
great,
and he's got loads of ability, but it's taken him. He's had a few injuries at the club. But now he looks really tuned into the Premier League and fit and sharp, and he's putting that ability to use at the moment. And Will Hughes is not mentioned as well. Another player who plays tucked in off the other wing. He's a technically very, very good player. They've got good players. Watford. Doucouré stayed. Capoue is looking reborn as well alongside him. So they're a tough side. And Spurs, I thought the result was a lot better than the performance at Old Trafford. And Pochettino said that as much after the game. We've got a lot to work on. For 45 minutes, I thought Man United bossed really the midfield in that game, and it took the first goal really to settle Spurs down. I still think there's still a little bit getting over having so many players at the semi-finals of the World Cup. They're growing into the season. I think after the international break they'll be better still, but at the moment there's still a little bit of vulnerability there, and I would not be backing them at long odds on. I'll take the draw here. And
for anyone wondering, Dan doesn't just go to Watford on his own. You have the season ticket because of your boy. Yeah,
I'll take my 6-year-old boy who is a Watford fanatic. Yeah.
And will you cheer if Tottenham score?
No. I could be in big trouble. Yeah.
Right, let's
not
get
just with my son, but a few of the people around me.
Yeah, indeed. Let's get some prices then from Adrian before we get James's view on this one.
So Watford here are 9-2, the draw is 3-1, and Spurs are sitting at 4-7.
What do you think, Adrian?
I think Watford are way too short here. I think Spurs are a great price at 4-7. Watford went off at 240 last week against Palace and just drifted like a barge for the whole first half as Palace really asserted their dominance. They beat Burnley, who have been really poor and are pretty much highly tipped to go down. And their first game, they went off 6-4 against Brighton, who were still playing last year's team. They hadn't brought in any of their new starters. I think Watford have flattered to deceive. They've outscored their XG by 3 full goals, which is pretty ridiculous for the first 3 games. There's only one way Watford can go down, and they're not going to continue this streak of winning every game. Really, it's a Spurs win for me.
So you like the 4-7? You want to get stuck in at them sort of prices?
I don't like really getting stuck in at those sort of prices, but if you're going to start looking at maybe the handicaps and maybe the half-time, full-time, but anything for Spurs here is going to be value.
All right. What about yourself, James? I can't see you massively being in the Spurs corner, being an Arsenal fan, but being professional and neutral as you are, what do you think?
Yeah, I was looking at Tottenham winning both teams to score, sort of slightly sitting on the fence between Dan and Adrian's views. I mean, Watford, I think, as Dan's mentioned, they have got technical ability, they have got pace and power up front. They're also, the manager was hailing their work rate after the Palace game when they were a shade fortunate to win the game. But you could see them really, they know how to unsettle opponents, and they'll obviously try that again against a superior side like Tottenham. And Spurs' results have definitely been better than their performances. I don't think they've been hit top gear, but they've won at Newcastle. Obviously won at Old Trafford and then scored 3 at home to Fulham as well. So they've scored 8 goals in 3 games without really looking particularly near their best. So I just think Tottenham will have enough quality, but yeah, I can definitely see Watford causing them the odd problem.
Marvellous. Right, we'll get the lads' best bets of the weekend. Just a quick line on Burnley, Man United, which isn't on TV. 4 o'clock kick-off, that one there. Adrian, the quick show there and your view on that one?
So it's Burnley 9-2, the draw 13-5, and Man United 8-13. To me, it looks probably a slight overreaction at Man United's poor start and the kind of negativity around them. I mean, Burnley have had a worse start, been really poor. I think United at 8-13 is probably really the treble at the weekend on Sunday. That Arsenal Man United Spurs treble doesn't look the worst treble you could ever place to me.
I'm sure you'll get plenty of takers for that one. Do you think you'll do a special on that, Adrian?
Every chance of it, really, but if we want to be ducking it, we might try and throw in one of the dogs from Saturday in there or something.
Right, okay, fair enough. Dan, quickly 8-13?
No, I think that's a decent price, actually. Yeah, I think they played a lot better in parts against Spurs than they did against Brighton. Just needs to sort of defence out, really, not make silly selections like Herrera in a back 3. I'm sure he won't be doing anything like that. Burnley, after Europa games, poor against Watford, poor against Fulham. I think this is a really tough game for Burnley.
Just quickly, James, I've said that I'm bored of all the Mourinho chat, but were Burnley to get a result here, maybe all 3 points, could that be the end of the line for him?
Oh, I mean, as we mentioned, you can, these big clubs, you can sack someone, but A, it's going to cost you a lot of money.
It'd be a fortune.
B, you're not going to have anyone particularly lined up at this stage of the season. So, I don't think Burnley can possibly win the game anyway. So
more love for Man
it's
United.
a moot point. Yeah, I think every team has their price, and yeah, probably the United crisis has been overplayed a bit, and Burnley have looked pretty patchy, and obviously in Europa League action on Thursday night as well. So yeah, I think United 8-13 is a fair price.
Great stuff. Right then, let's get the lads' best bet to this weekend.
This will not be beaten.
Right, I'll go down the line in the studio then, James. Then we'll go to Adrian for a price on the treble. Where are we going?
In League One, both teams to score in Walsall against Blackpool. It's copped in all 7 of Walsall's League and Cup games this season. They had a 3-3 draw in the League Cup in midweek, and Blackpool pose a decent goal threat. They've 4 of their last 6 have seen goals at both ends, so should be a cracker.
Okay, and you, Dan?
I'm going to go Birmingham to win at home to QPR in a match between 2 of the Championship strugglers. Birmingham haven't won yet, but I watched their game at Nottingham Forest. I fancied at the start of the season, and it was 2-2, but Birmingham were dominant really and should have won the game. Really impressed me with how they played. Had a threat up front. Jutkovic and Che Adams, when he came on, looked good as well. So I think Birmingham, despite their problems with their embargo, are going to rise up the table. QPR are struggling. I think they'll continue to struggle. I mean, they've had obviously the shocking result at West Brom. They did scrape a 1-0 win at home to Wigan last weekend, but I'm still not convinced about QPR. I think they'll lose this game.
Right, so we've got Walsall, Blackpool, both teams to score for James. Birmingham to turn over, QPR for Dan. 2 prices there, and of course the treble, along with your little beauty as well, please, Adrian.
Yeah, so Dan's picked my pocket there. So looking at the remainder, I do think Wolves are a great price at home to West Ham here. So the treble there totally pay out just under 10-1.
We lost you a little bit there, Adrian.
No,
we didn't. Wolves at West Ham. Okay, what does that treble pay?
Just under 10-1.
Just under 10-1. Excellent. Right, well, I thank the lads in the studio here, James Milton and Dan Childs from the Racing Post, along with Adrian Croak on the line from Paddy Power. And I thank you for listening as well. Do tune in, subscribe, rate, review, SoundCloud, iTunes, and wherever you're watching and listening to this Racing Post football postcast.
Throw-ins, corners, yellow cards. Previously very boring. Now almost too exciting. Thanks to same-game multi-bets from Paddy Power. Same-game multis allow you to combine multiple selections into one game. Easy. Available on all UK and top European leagues. T's and C's apply.